Good day, friends. This is Casey back again with Aligned Astrology. Today we're talking about the new moon in the sign of Aries. As you know, new moons spark new beginnings. When we think about the sign Aries, we know Aries is the sign that likes to take action, the sign that moves, that sparks forward movement, momentum. We have so many different things going on in this zodiac sign this month for our new moon. Maybe you're experiencing it a lot in your own life. Of course, there's many different things going on in the public sphere of the world, but since we can correlate Aries with I am, me and myself, maybe there's lots of different things going on in your own experience. Sometimes these things may be easy to overlook when we're not aware of our own experience, aware of ourselves, when we live in a mechanical life. But if we just take a moment to stop for a second, we can realize just how powerful or intense these moments have been in our experience. In my own personal experience as a Scorpio rising, I have Aries in the sixth house of work and service, and there's been much busyness in my own experience. We have Mars moving through this sign in its own domicile in its home. So Mars does very well here, but Mars also carries that impulsive action. So maybe we're just moving from job to job or task to task, getting the things done. But we have to take into consideration the other planets in the sign of Aries. Right now we have 6 planets in this zodiac sign. Now we like to be mindful of the dispositor, which is Mars, when we're looking at a new moon, because that planet, the ruler of the house or the ruler of the sign, determines the flavor that this new moon is going to carry. Being that Mars is in Aries, like we were talking about with new moons, they carry that energy of internal initiation, the planting of the seed. But Aries is the one that goes forward. So maybe we're already doing the thing. Maybe we're already taking the different actions towards the goal that we've set for ourselves. But remember, this is just the beginning of that process. We also have the planet Neptune here. We have Saturn here. We have Mercury here. So when we have Aries filled with all these different planets, we have to come up with an insight and understanding that incorporates each of the meanings of these planets to gain a proper delineation of what this new moon can bring for us. Neptune in this place carries the energy of fantasy, of grandeur. But when we have Aries, Aries doesn't live in that realm. Aries lives in the action-oriented realm. So having the sign of Aries with Neptune entering and being here for the next 14 years, we're gaining the opportunity to feel things out now. Of course, we're taking our action, but intuition is going to be coupled with it. We're learning from our actions just as Aries does, but we're also using our intuition now. We're gaining the insight and the clarity of what the direction that we're meant to go in feels like. So we're following that internal urge this time. And Mars has passed over this planet already. And when we look at the chart, we'll go into a little bit more detail of the orb range for these different planets during the new moon and how they're affecting one another. But Mars is making its rounds in conjunction with these different planets, as it's already passed the conjunction with Neptune. So maybe the intuition has already began to show itself in our experience. And this is something that is ongoing as Mars walks on the path. This reminds me of a poem from the Sufi mystic Rumi, and maybe you've heard of him, but the poem goes a little bit like, when we walk on the path reveals itself. So right now, maybe Aries is trying to move quickly along the path, but Neptune here is allowing us to see that path we're walking on. Each step we take, another awareness, clarity is revealed. Now with Saturn also here in the sign of Aries, Saturn is the one that slows us down. It provides a roadblock for us to learn something from. That's what Saturn is. Saturn can be seen as our great teacher in the zodiac, because Saturn turns us into a master of our experience if we learn the lessons properly. So, being that Saturn is here, we get to learn our lessons quicker. Of course, it's not as fast as Mars and Aries would prefer, but Saturn gives us the opportunity to slow down and recognize the direction that we're going in, recognize the actions that we need to take, and even bring in some strategic elements to our Aries experience. Now, Mercury here is correlated with our mind, our communication, the things that we've been learning lately, and how we are going to apply them to our experience. Now, we know that the planet Mercury is one that can be very analytical at times, but when Mercury moves into the sign of Aries, it takes on those natural characteristics and becomes possibly blunt at the tongue and very impulsive and quick-witted. Sometimes this may not be the best thing when we say something that might hurt someone that we can't take back, or we think in a way and we take that action and it leads us down a path that requires for us to learn from our experience now, as opposed to taking a few moments to think. So when we begin to incorporate Neptune, our intuition, we begin to incorporate Saturn, the wall in front of us, the boundaries, the obstacles that we need to overcome, and then Mercury as well. This gives us the opportunity to incorporate our mind with our spiritual elements, our intuition, and our strategy, our strategic elements. So Aries right now is allowing us to take action in a very interesting way this time with this new moon. And since the sun and the moon are going to be culminating at 27 degrees of Aries, nearing the end of the sign, this is showing us that we are just at the beginning of this threshold that we're entering into. And just like Aries is considered the first zodiac sign of the tropical house system or the zodiac, we see that it is us who is taking the action. So what we're going to do is pull up a chart, and then we're going to look together and we'll get to see what the planets are doing. Here at 27 degrees, this new moon in Aries is culminating. And like we said before, we have this stellium of planets in the sign of Aries. Now, that means we have 6 planets in the sign of Aries. That's a lot of planets. So majority of this energy is wrapped around that action-oriented beginning sort of energy. So maybe we're starting something new. Maybe we've been planning this thing and we've been faced with obstacle after obstacle that's requiring us to learn some different things about ourselves and how we choose to move forward in our experience. We also have the other planets that are affecting this new moon. The planet Pluto we can speak of in the sign of Aquarius is making that sextile aspect over to Mars. So maybe our actions are showing something deeper about ourselves in connection with community. Maybe we get an opportunity to see how the actions that we take are playing a part in other people's lives. A lot of the time when Aries takes action, it's for the sole purpose of the desire being fulfilled, the goal being reached, without any consideration or even thought of the next person. But maybe Pluto's bringing some things to the surface, giving us an opportunity to recognize what we are leaving in the path behind us. We have some great benefit from Venus right now in the sign of Taurus, since we have a lot of intensity moving through the sign of Aries. Venus is in its domicile in the sign of Taurus, and it is in a sextile aspect to Jupiter. So these benefic planets in our experience are acting as a buffer for this intense energy that we're experiencing. So I invite you to take a moment to think about your own experience and what you're going through. Because this is how we can truly begin to understand and learn astrology on an experiential level. Of course, it's good to find a teacher to study from. It's good to read books and learn in this way. But the truth is, the best way of learning this practical divine science is through experience, noticing how these planets express and operate in our own personal lives. With Mars coming into that conjunction with Saturn during this new moon is showing us the importance of slowing down, the importance of following a strategy and realizing the obstacles that we're faced with. Since Mercury has joined in the mix, is giving us an opportunity to notice our minds and choose to slow them down. And the greatest benefit that we can gain from all of this is that Neptune here is providing us with a flavor of experience that we have yet to experience in this life for ourselves. With that Neptune in Aries, we get to feel the deeper parts of the actions that we are taking. Why do we do the things we do on an impulsive, instinctual level? How do we benefit from these things? And when we take these actions, we get an opportunity to reflect, thanks to Saturn. Did we do the right thing? Did we take the proper action to benefit our lives? And if not, we can try again. That's what Aries does. Aries takes the action. If it doesn't work, we do something else. We try again. We may do the same thing again and again to learn that lesson. But being that we have these other planets here, we don't have to go through that same failure aspect, that same trial and error so consistently. So let this intense new moon be an opportunity for us to take the right action the first time and start in the proper direction. And maybe we get to move at an accelerated pace because we've had the proper strategy. We've attuned our mind in the right direction. And we've began to comprehend the flavor of our own intuition. Of course, you may know all of the different things going on in the world right now, the different wars that we may be at, the crisis that may be afoot. But the truth is, there's not much we can really do about these things. Unless we were to all come together, these things are out of our control. So being that this is a new moon in the sign of Aries, we need to take an opportunity to see what is in our control and handle those things. And when we can do that, then we free the space in our own life to think differently, to be differently, to act differently, and maybe things begin to change from our own action, from our own footsteps along the path. Notice how this is showing up in your own life, friends. Please remember to like this video and subscribe if you've benefited from it. and you want to see more videos like this, it helps this channel grow so that people like you can see these videos. Until the next time, friends, this is Casey with Aligned Astrology. We'll see you soon.